Hi, this is Dr. Pachenik, and today I want to talk about the impending war with Iran. Over a month ago, I had warned the administration not to send the Abraham Lincoln carrier and destroyers into the Straits of Hormuz. The reason for that was it was a high provocation. John Bolton and Pompeo are not qualified to deal with escalation of tension. They have no experience in deconflicting crisis. You need to understand, Mr. President, that wars are started simply by this type of exercise where we send in troops for no other reason than some bombastic declaration. Let me go back to World War II. Roosevelt knew that when he cut off the oil to the Japanese, they would eventually attack us. Contrary to common opinion, Pearl Harbor was not a sudden attack. It was a false flag. We knew about it. We had prepared for it, and we allowed the Japanese to attack us so that we could be in the position of saying that we were attacked. Similarly, Korea was the outgrowth of what we call the Admiral's Revolt. Without going into any great discussion about it, you can read about it. Our admirals refused to discontinue the Navy because Curtis LeMay and others in the strategic bombing services said we don't need a Navy. For the most part, they were correct, but nevertheless, that was the prelude to the Korean War. The Korean War, we lost 30 to 40,000 men, over 3 million people were killed, and we lost that war. If it hadn't been for Eisenhower, we would not have gotten out of that situation. Similarly, we had a president, LBJ, who decided to create a false flag called the Gulf of Tonkin and said that we had been attacked by the Vietnamese, which we hadn't. And as a result of that, we lost another 40 to 50 million men. A quarter of a million men were disabled, and millions of people in Vietnam and elsewhere were killed. Now we have John Bolton and Pompeo, two neocons who have no idea about what war is about, never really engaged in any conflict, unlike myself and 20 million other veterans who've been not only in one war but in several wars. And they have created the Iraq War, which they said the intelligence community was certain that there were weapons of mass disruption in Iraq, and the Taliban was helping out Saddam Hussein in Afghanistan. We're still there in Iraq 16 years later, and 17 years later, after millions of people have been killed, Zalmay Khalilzad cannot conclude a peace treaty, and no one can conclude a peace treaty in Iraq. So what you have right now is a series of conflicts that you have to resolve very quickly. Number one, the economic tariff war with China is exceedingly serious. Within 2 weeks, if you don't come to the conclusion that you and President Xi can resolve this beneficially to both sides, let me tell you what happens. We have an inversion of the yield curve where the short-term T-bill rates are much higher than the 10-year short T-bill rates. And in effect, if you don't come to a resolution, the stock market will start to recede very quickly and we will head into a recession. We have a very slow economic growth all over the world, including our own country. Secondly, you have a war going on in Yemen for years where the Houthis were supported Iran and Saudi Arabia supported the others. So let me give you a word of advice. General Eisenhower said war is not useful. It uses resources and it's quite stupid. General Westmoreland said that for the most part, civilians create the war and our military has to fight it. Good night and good luck.